This is the lesson for Chapter 8, Section 1, Day number 2, Volume of Cylinders. And so what we saw yesterday was that our volume formula said that if we take the area of the base, multiply it by the height, it gives us the volume. So remember, the area of the base of a cylinder is a circle, and the volume formula is pi r squared for the circle. So our entire volume formula is pi r squared times h. So what's different about this is we're given the volume, and we're trying to find the height. So let's start off with our formula. Volume equals pi r squared h. And so what we're going to end up doing is we can do one of two things. We can either solve the formula for h, divide by pi r squared, and that would give us our volume formula initially. So volume equals pi r squared h, or equals h. Volume equals pi, or volume divided by pi r squared will equal the height. And so you can substitute your numbers into the formula and then just do the work, give you your answer. The other way, again, I'll just show you what I'm looking at here. 176 divided by, and then pi times by the radius. So it was 8 divided by 2, quantity squared. 8 divided by 2 because this is the diameter in this case. And so if I'm given the diameter, I need to find the radius. And so the radius would end up being 8 divided by 2, which makes 4. So you could do this work and it would give you your answer. Now the other way would be to just substitute the numbers in initially. So we could do 176 in place of the volume. And then in place of pi, well, we just have pi. In place of the radius squared, we have 4 squared. Again, I'm getting that 4 squared because I took the radius, and took the diameter and divided by 2, and then times by h. So you can see you can do it in stages here. So we can start off with 176 divided by pi, and give us our answer, 56.02. The only thing with this method is don't erase those numbers. You don't have to write them all down. I just wrote some dots there to show that it went on for quite some time. I still have 4 squared, which is 16, so I'll go ahead and change that number. So we'll call that 16 now, 16h. And so now I'm going to divide by 16. So again, I'm using that entire number, so I don't clear that number. I just press divided by 16. And I get this number here of 3 point, let's see what it was again, 50. So 50. So that 5 gets rounded up, or in this case down, 3.5, and centimeters is the height. So again, I could have just plugged it all into the formula in one time and gotten that same answer. You could do the same thing for this problem here. Again, the formula method goes this way. You start off with your formula, pi r squared h. You solve for r. So you've got 2 steps here. Divide by pi h. That'll cancel out the pi's and the h's. So you have volume equal, or volume over pi h equals r squared. So to get rid of the squared symbol, you take the square root, and you got your formula. So you have a big square root symbol. So if you use the calculator, you've got to press the fraction, or the square root button, then the fraction button, enter your volume, divided by pi times h. Now on the pi times h, if you set it up this way, you have to enter it like this. So we start off with our volume, 600,000. So again, radical sign, then the fraction button. Enter the 600,000, then pi, and then if you enter pi first, you'd have to press times, the x there, times by h, which is 76. And it'll give you your radius exactly. Now, use just the plugging in method, it goes this way. Volume equals pi r squared h, and just substitute your numbers. 600,000 equals pi r squared, don't know what r is, times by 76. So I divide by pi first, and when I do that work, 600,000 divided by pi equals, and then I get this number here, so this is 190985. 190985. Now the number did go on forever, so it went on for some time, so I'll press, or just draw some dots there, right? R squared times 76. Now I'll divide by 76, and let's see what we get. So divided by 76 gives me 0.25, and let's see what the rest of that number was, 12, and then it kept on going, equals r squared. So now I take the square root. Again, noticing that I did not clear the screen. I didn't write all the numbers, just some dots there, just to symbolize that went on forever. And now I'm taking the square root of that answer, and it gives me this, 50.12 equals r. So rounding that to the tenths place, 50 and 1/10. These are centimeters. That's the radius, equals r in this case. So two methods to solve the same type of problem. Let's take a look at the other type that we have. What's different here is that we have to do something with the volume once we find it. So it says about how many gallons of water does the water cooler bottle contain. So it tells us that a gallon is equal to about 1 cubic foot. So let's find out the cubic feet of the cylinder. Ignoring the top portion, just looking at the cylinder, we're going to start off with our volume formula, pi r squared h. Well, the radius, this is the diameter again, so we always have to watch for that. So diameter equals 1. The radius equals 1 divided by 2, which is 1/2 foot. And so I'm going to plug that number in, pi times, and then 1/2 squared times by 1.7. So I'm going to go ahead and, since I'm in decimals here, I probably should just use the decimal form for this number. So I'll go ahead and do that, 0.5. And so 0.5 squared is going to give me 0.25, and then times by pi times by 1.7. So now I have to multiply 0.25 and 1.7. It's 0.25 times by 1.7, and that gives me 0.425. 0.425 pi. And so now I'm ready to find out what that volume is in cubic feet. So let's go ahead and set this up. So there we have it. So we have 0.425, and we need it to multiply that by pi, which is right there. There we have it, equals, there it is, 1.335. So the volume is about 1.335 cubic feet. So what we're going to do now is we're finding the volume. Now I'm not erasing that answer. Remember, I don't modify the number until I get to the end of the answer, end of the problem. I have one more step. My next step is to change this to gallons. So there's 1 cubic foot in 7.5 gallons. So what I'm going to do is multiply this answer by 7.5 gallons per cubic foot. And what that's going to do is it's going to cancel out the cubic feet, because this is over 1, and it's just going to leave me with gallons. So now I'm going to take that answer and multiply by 7.5, and that gives me 10.013. So this equals 10.013. So about 10 gallons of water is what that ends up holding. So another problem, very similar. Cylindrical water tower has a diameter of 15 meters. So the diameter, distance all the way across, is 15 meters. It says the height of this is 5 meters. So 5 meters. So there's our water tower, and we want to find out how many gallons of water are in this. If a cubic meter equals 264 gallons. So let's find out what the volume of this is. So we've got pi r squared h. So pi times the radius. Now again, this is the diameter, so we have to do 15 divided by 2 squared times by 5. So 15 squared is 225. 2 squared is 4 times by 5. And then this is all multiplied by pi. So we'll do 225 divided by 4, and then times by 5. That gives me 281.25 pi. So I did 225 divided by 4 times by 5. And so this is the exact answer. Let's find out what the approximate is. Times by pi gives me 883 point, and then 5, 7, and so on. So I'm going to draw some dots there to show that it goes on forever. And these are cubic meters. So I want to cancel out the cubic meters. So I'm going to write 264 gallons per cubic meter. Now I put the cubic meters in the bottom because I want those to cancel out. So I take that entire number there and multiply it by 264. That gives me this answer here. So it looks like it's 233,000 and let's see, 233,263.2. 263.25, and it kind of keeps on going. So this is about how many gallons? Well, we'll just round to the nearest gallon, so we'll call that about 233,263 gallons of water is what that water tower will hold. So those are the types of problems you're going to see on tonight's assignment.